Some people don't show you who they are with their words. They show you with their asks, the things they want from you, the things they pull out of you. Those are red flags you can't ignore. If you want to protect your time, your peace, and your self-respect, you need to recognize the requests that come with hidden costs. Because once you know them, you won't get caught off guard. When someone asks for your loyalty but never gives you theirs, that's one of the biggest warning signs you can't ignore. Loyalty is supposed to be mutual. It's built on trust, respect, and consistency. When you give it, you're saying, I've got your back, I'll stand by you, I'll show up when you need me. But if the other person doesn't reciprocate, you're not in a loyal relationship. You're in a one-sided deal that drains you. Think about how often people like this demand that you defend them, stand with them, cover for them, or choose them over someone else. But when you're the one in need, they're suddenly nowhere to be found. They want you to carry the weight of loyalty while they enjoy the benefits without the responsibility. That imbalance is how they control you, because loyalty in the wrong hands becomes leverage, not love. You'll notice the way they use loyalty like a test. They'll say things like, if you really care about me, you'll do this. Or if you're loyal, you'll keep this between us. They twist it into a weapon, trying to make you feel guilty if you don't comply. And the truth is, loyalty isn't blind obedience. Loyalty doesn't mean abandoning your own needs, your values, or your boundaries just to satisfy someone else. Real loyalty has to go both ways. Otherwise, it's just manipulation dressed up as devotion. Another thing about people who demand loyalty without giving it is that they will put you in situations where you're expected to sacrifice, but they never will. You'll catch yourself dropping what you're doing to help them, but when it's flipped, there's always an excuse. They're too busy, too tired, or suddenly unavailable. And when you call it out, they'll try to flip the script and say you're being selfish. That's because they never intended to match your loyalty. They only wanted to take advantage of it. Loyalty should feel like safety. It should feel like having someone you can rely on through both the highs and the lows. But when it's demanded and not returned, it starts to feel like a chain. You'll feel weighed down, resentful, and used because deep down, you know you're pouring into something that doesn't pour back into you. That's why you have to pay attention to actions, not words. Anyone can say, I'm loyal, but words don't protect you when life gets hard. Actions do. A truly loyal person won't have to ask you to prove it. You'll see it in the way they show up, the way they protect you when you're not around, the way they honor your trust, even when it would be easier not to. You'll feel it in the consistency, not the pressure. The difference is night and day. Someone who values loyalty doesn't demand it. They inspire it. You want to be loyal to them because you know they do the same for you. So if you ever feel like someone is constantly questioning your loyalty, constantly testing you, constantly requiring you to prove yourself, that's not loyalty, that's control. And the longer you give into it, the more it eats away at your sense of self. Because real loyalty doesn't require you to lose yourself in order to keep someone else happy. It requires honesty, mutual respect, and accountability. When those pieces aren't there, you're not being loyal, you're being used. And when you recognize that difference, you'll understand that some people don't deserve your loyalty just because they demand it. They have to earn it, and if they can't give it back, then it was never loyalty to begin with. When someone asks for your time but never values it, what they're really showing you is how little respect they have for you. Time is the one thing we never get back. You can earn more money, you can rebuild relationships, you can regain opportunities, but once time is gone, it's gone. And when people constantly demand your time but treat it like it's disposable, that's a sign they see your energy as something to take from, not something to respect. These are the people who always want to talk but never listen, who always want you to show up but never consider your schedule, who think your free moments belong to them. They'll ask you to stop what you're doing, drop your priorities, and rearrange your life around their needs. And yet, when you need just a fraction of that consideration in return, it's nowhere to be found. They don't just take your time, they waste it. They'll keep you waiting, cancel on you last minute, or stretch a 5-minute favor into a 2-hour ordeal. And instead of being grateful, They act like it was nothing, like your day wasn't disrupted, like your focus wasn't broken. That's because in their world, your time is secondary to theirs. They believe their urgency, their convenience, their agenda matters more than your life. And if you let them, they'll keep pulling and pulling until you realize that you're living on their clock instead of your own. The danger with people like this is how subtle it starts. At first, it's a small favor, a quick call, a little meeting. You think, sure, I can do that. But slowly, it adds up. They don't just ask once, they keep asking. And eventually, you find yourself drained, overwhelmed, and frustrated, wondering why you never seem to have enough hours in the day. It's because someone else is cashing in on your time while giving nothing in return. That's the cost of not noticing early that your time isn't being valued. And when you try to set boundaries with people like this, they'll push back hard. They'll make you feel guilty for saying no. They'll question your loyalty, your care, your intentions. They'll act like you're selfish for wanting to keep your time for yourself. But the truth is, respecting your own time is one of the most unselfish things you can do, because when your time is protected, you show up better for the people and the projects that truly matter. You give your best energy to the right places instead of being drained by the wrong ones. What makes this worse is that people who waste your time often don't even realize they're doing it because it's become a habit for them. They've gotten used to others catering to them, so they don't stop to think about the impact. But whether it's intentional or careless, the effect on you is the same. Your priorities fall behind, your goals get delayed, your peace gets disturbed, you start to carry resentment, and the more you give in, the more they expect. That cycle never ends until you decide it does. Time is respect in action. If someone values you, they value your time. They show up when they say they will. They keep conversations concise when they know you're busy. They acknowledge when you're giving them something valuable. They don't abuse your availability because they understand what it means to give someone a piece of your life you can't get back. And that's the difference. You don't have to beg people who respect you to honor your time. They just do it. So when someone keeps asking for your time but proves again and again that they don't value it, you're not obligated to keep giving it. You don't owe endless hours to people who treat your time like it's disposable, because if someone can't honor your time, they can't truly honor you. And the more you notice that, the more you'll realize that protecting your time isn't selfish, it's survival. When someone asks for your silence so they can stay comfortable, what they're really asking is for you to shrink yourself to make their life easier. Silence is powerful, but when it's forced on you, it becomes a tool of control. These are the people who don't want you to speak up when something's wrong, who'd rather you bite your tongue than hold them accountable, who pressure you into keeping secrets that protect them but hurt you. They want you to stay quiet, not because it's better for you, but because it shields them from consequences, from discomfort, from the truth they don't want to face. And if you let them, they'll make you believe that your silence is loyalty, when in reality it's just submission disguised as support. You'll see it in the way they react when you start to express your feelings. They'll tell you that you're overreacting, that you're being dramatic, that it's not the right time to talk about it. They'll dismiss your voice so often that you start to question whether speaking up is even worth it. And that's the danger. You begin to silence yourself before they even have to. You start anticipating their reaction, so you keep it all inside, and little by little, you lose your voice. That's how control works, not always by force, but by conditioning you to stay small. The problem is, silence doesn't erase the problem, it just buries it. When you hold back what you need to say, resentment grows. You replay conversations in your head, thinking about all the things you could have said but didn't. That frustration builds, and instead of being released in a healthy way, it sits inside of you until it starts to change you. You become more cautious, more withdrawn, less confident in speaking your truth. And while you're getting smaller, the other person is getting more comfortable because your silence keeps them safe from the truth they don't want to deal with. People who demand your silence don't just want to avoid conflict, they want to avoid accountability. They want to keep doing what they're doing without having to answer for it. They want you to carry the weight of their actions by keeping them hidden, by not confronting them, by making sure no one else knows. And if you ever dare to break that silence, they'll accuse you of betrayal, of disloyalty, of making things worse. But the truth is, the only reason they fear your voice is because it exposes what they don't want to change. And sometimes it's not even about big issues, it's about everyday situations. They'll shut you down when you have an idea, interrupt you when you're sharing, or ignore you when you're trying to contribute. Over time, those little silences add up, and you start to internalize the belief that your voice doesn't matter. But it does matter. It always matters. The fact that someone else feels threatened by it doesn't mean you should give it up. It means your voice holds weight, and they're afraid of the shift it might cause. Speaking up isn't about being loud, it's about being honest. It's about refusing to live in a space where your comfort is sacrificed so someone else can stay unchallenged. It's about reclaiming the power to say, "This doesn't work for me," even if it makes someone else uncomfortable. Because discomfort isn't the enemy, silence is. Discomfort leads to growth, to clarity, to change. Silence only protects what should have been confronted. So when people keep asking you to stay quiet for their sake, recognize what they're really asking. They want you to carry the burden of their comfort while abandoning your own. And the longer you accept that, the more you teach yourself that your truth doesn't matter. But it does. And the moment you stop giving away your voice to protect someone else's ease, you'll realize how much strength there is in choosing to speak, even when silence would have been easier. When someone asks for your money but never takes responsibility, what they're really revealing is not just a financial problem, but a mindset problem. Money itself isn't the issue, it's the attitude behind it. There's a huge difference between someone going through a tough season who genuinely needs a hand and someone who repeatedly makes poor choices, refuses to learn from them, and expects you to cover the fallout. The first situation is about support. The second is about enabling. And when you're dealing with people who keep asking for money but never take responsibility, what you're really dealing with is a pattern of entitlement. They see your hard work, your sacrifice, your discipline, and instead of respecting it, they treat it like their safety net. The way this shows up is subtle at first. They might come to you with a story that sounds reasonable, maybe even urgent, and you want to help. You think, it's just this once, but then once turns into twice, twice turns into a habit, and before long you realize they're relying on you instead of relying on themselves. And when someone gets comfortable with that, they stop looking for solutions and start looking for shortcuts. You become their solution, and they don't even feel the need to change because you're always there to fix the problem. The tricky part is that they often play on your emotions. They'll talk about how hard things are, how they're trying their best, how no one else understands. And because you care, you give. But caring doesn't mean funding irresponsibility. Every time you bail someone out who won't take responsibility, you're not helping them grow. You're helping them stay stuck. You're removing the natural consequences of their choices, and in doing so, you're teaching them that someone else will always clean up their mess. That cycle keeps them from developing discipline, from learning accountability, from building resilience. Money is tied to responsibility in a way that reveals character. Someone who respects money usually respects effort, respects planning, respects the fact that other people have their own obligations too. Someone who doesn't take responsibility with money often doesn't respect boundaries either. They'll borrow without paying back, promise they'll change but never follow through, and sometimes even get defensive when you finally draw the line. They'll flip it back on you, make you feel cold or selfish, as if your refusal to hand over money says something about your character instead of theirs. That's the manipulation at play. They want you to feel guilty for protecting what you've worked for. And here's the truth. Money is tied to value, not just in the practical sense, but in the personal sense too. When someone keeps asking you for it without responsibility, what they're really saying is, "I value my comfort more than I value your effort." Because your money is your time, your energy, your sacrifice. Every dollar you earn represents hours you'll never get back, stress you endured, choices you made to build security. And when someone treats that lightly, they're treating your life lightly. That's why it stings so much when it happens. It's not just about money, it's about respect. The hardest part is when it's someone close to you, family, friends, people you genuinely want to see succeed. Saying no feels harsh, but saying yes keeps them stuck. The truth is, boundaries with money are a form of love because they force someone to face the reality they've been avoiding. It's not cruel to stop funding irresponsibility, it's necessary because until they take ownership of their choices, no amount of your money will ever fix the problem. They'll burn through it, come back again, and the cycle will repeat until you decide it doesn't anymore. Responsibility is the difference maker. If someone shows they're willing to change, to learn, to grow, then helping them financially can be a bridge to something better. But if they refuse to own their part, if they continue to ask without accountability, then all the giving in the world won't help them. It will only drain you. And protecting your financial boundaries isn't just about keeping your wallet safe. It's about protecting your energy, your peace, and your ability to invest in people and places that actually honor what you give. When someone asks for your forgiveness but never changes, what they're really asking is for a free pass to keep hurting you without accountability. Forgiveness is powerful, it's healing, it's necessary, but it's not meant to be a revolving door where someone keeps walking in and out with the same mistakes over and over. True forgiveness isn't just about saying sorry, it's about aligning words with actions. If someone repeatedly apologizes, but their behavior stays the same, that apology is nothing more than a tool to reset the clock, to calm the situation down just enough to keep things going the way they want. And if you're not careful, you start to confuse forgiveness with permission, giving them room to continue patterns that damage your trust, your peace, and your sense of worth. You'll notice it in the way their apologies feel hollow. They might sound convincing, maybe even emotional, but the proof is always in what happens next. Do they make an effort to do better, to communicate differently, to actually stop the behavior that caused the hurt, or do they repeat the same actions and come back with the same lines, expecting you to accept it again? That cycle can trap you because forgiveness feels like the right thing to do, but without change, it's just a reset button that benefits them and burdens you. The danger here is that repeated empty forgiveness starts to wear you down. At first, you're hopeful. You think, maybe this time will be different. But after a while, you realize nothing changes, and your hope turns into frustration, then into resentment, and finally into numbness. And when you get numb, that's when you've given away too much of yourself. Because forgiveness without change is like watering a dead plant. It drains you without producing anything life-giving in return. People who live this way often know exactly what they're doing. They've learned that if they say the right words, if they cry, if they make promises in the moment, you'll let your guard down. They depend on your compassion to override your boundaries. And every time you forgive without requiring change, you reinforce that pattern. You're teaching them that consequences don't stick, that your grace is limitless, that they can hurt you and still keep access to you. That's not forgiveness, that's exploitation. Forgiveness should never cost you your self-respect. It's not about ignoring the wrong, it's about releasing the weight of it so you don't carry bitterness. But releasing bitterness doesn't mean releasing accountability. You can forgive someone in your heart and still set boundaries that protect you from being hurt the same way again. In fact, real forgiveness often requires boundaries, because without them, forgiveness gets cheapened into an excuse. When someone truly wants forgiveness, they show it through changed behavior, consistent effort, and proof over time that they're willing to grow. Anything less is just lip service. And sometimes it's not about dramatic situations, it's about the small, repeated patterns that erode trust slowly. It's the friend who always lets you down but promises to be there next time, the partner who keeps making the same hurtful comment but swears they didn't mean it, the coworker who keeps dropping the ball but apologizes after every mistake. Over time, those patterns take more from you than one big betrayal because they wear down your trust in increments until you're left with nothing solid to stand on. The truth is, forgiveness is not about letting people off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from carrying the anger. But if someone refuses to change, you're not obligated to keep them in the same place in your life. Forgiveness doesn't mean access. Forgiveness doesn't mean tolerance. Forgiveness doesn't mean allowing the same story to play out endlessly while you hope for a different ending. It means you've chosen peace for yourself, and with that peace comes the strength to draw a line. And that line is where you decide that empty apologies no longer have power over you, because forgiveness without change is just another way of staying stuck in a cycle that was never meant to be permanent.